Yo, what is going on? Happy holidays. Hope everybody had a good, kind of sort of long weekend. Market, I think, has a case of the Mondays, but you know what? That's all good because we never do. And by the way, so today we have our very special guest, Prophets in the house. Yes, Shreyas, what's up? Sharky is in the house. Let's see, there he is. Today we got our setup. So at Shark Trader, by the way, we've got our little Twitter handles there. So if you want to give us a follow, very much appreciated. Absolutely love that. But yeah, so I think what's going on, Sharky? How's your
Hi,
weekend?
how you doing? Happy Thanksgiving to you and
Happy
your
Thanksgiving,
family. I
man.
hope you had a great one.
Yes, yes. Let me turn my phone off. I got we had a I don't know if I said it last time, but like we had a doctor's appointment last week. We
That's
got one
right for
tomorrow.
baby paper
Yeah,
or
Paper
papyrus.
Junior officially fully cooked as of this week or last week,
Oh
right?
God,
So yes,
it's 400
man,
degrees in the oven and
yes,
ready to
yes,
blow.
yes. The oven is fully preheated. It's ready to roll. So it's kind of any day now, man. I'm like anxious, scared all at the same time. I don't know if anybody can relate out there, but it's like you
Oh,
look and like they're like so pregnant, and you're like, oh, ready for this baby to come, and then you're like, wait, well, maybe not. Like, okay, you can chill for a little bit. Um, but yeah, so it's I'm excited, man. So that's what we got coming on for Christmas too, by the way. So very cool. But without further ado, let's go ahead and kick this off. All right. So this week we got, just every week, by the way, every Monday, I like to do this as often as we can whenever the market's open, at least just go through just like a business. Right. And I think Sharky saw this and was like, you know what? He hopped in. I think, uh, you know, I think it's really important. Just, we trade for a living, right? And being able to look at your trading journey as like a legitimate, serious business is super important, right? Especially for baby profit. Yeah, post-it note for sure. Um, like coming from the corporate world, right? And I don't know, Sharky, if you came from the corporate world before too, but every morning, every Monday morning, we'd have like this big old all hands meeting, and you go over the week, like some of the achievements last week, what was good, what's coming up this week, what's important, what's on deck, and really just kind of plan it out. And like if you don't do that, the market. I mean, especially this market, right? Just, you could get trapped in trying to figure out like all these 20 different trades that are possibly going on, trying to track everything, all this important data. It just gets to be a lot, right? And so this is just kind of like my way of trying to organize all that stuff and really clean up the week. Personally, I am a swing trader, obviously. So, there are some focus trades that you guys get here and there on this stream and some kind of like major events that we're really watching out for. But with that said, I don't actually have a whole lot of headlines. I don't know, Sharky, I'm going to go through this, but if you have any that you want to bring up, by all means, have at it. So we got, we'll go through a little bit of the economic data. There really wasn't a whole lot aside from two things like existing home sales and durable goods orders, which we'll hit in a little bit. Existing home sales lowest in the last 13 years, which is wild to me, right? Because I look at like the XHB or the home builders ETF, and actually that thing just had a huge jump the other day and is holding, right? And so it's funny when you see things like this. Yeah, home sales are low, but the home builders are, it's the inventory thing, right? So like people are still stuck in the current in their current mortgages, having locked in maybe some fixed rates at the lows. Anybody that's in adjustable rate is probably probably refinancing, maybe had refinanced earlier. But it seems like essentially, if you got a house, you're really not moving. You got a good rate at the moment, and if you're looking, then slim pickings out there for sure. But anyways, the rest of the stuff, we did have a lot of Fed officials talking last week. We're gonna have a lot this week coming up.
oh yeah.
And the short of that long, essentially, it's kind of like this messaging campaign that I picked up, right? Like, they're kind of dancing around this. Like, do we think that the peak rate is in? I think so. I think the market thinks so. I don't know what Sharky thinks, but like we're probably at least close to, if not have already had it. And regardless, like what's going to happen though is that the Fed can't really say, oh, we're not going to raise rates anymore. Like the second that happens, then all hell's going to break loose. So
Right.
it's really like for their own benefit. Like they can't go about that. So they have to kind of have this messaging campaign that keeps the market guessing, tries to keep the market on their toes. In terms of like, not to get too ahead of our skis, if you will, right? Too over our skis.
Well, the other thing about the with data and the way the Fed works and everything is that they obviously are very data dependent, and the policies that they put in, these are policies that are affecting things on a macro scale, right? So they
Yeah,
take a long time to filter through the data that they do get. So I think that they are making the right call here, kind of pulling back a little bit and then waiting to see what information they get coming in December, and then into January, and then they'll probably try to make the most informed decision as they can. They were kind of late, in my opinion, to raising rates.
sure.
It's, so I think maybe they. I mean, I want to give them. It's hard to give the Fed the benefit of the doubt, but maybe they're trying to be a little bit proactive here and pull back on the reins before they overshoot their mark,
Yeah, yeah,
and do too much damage. The employment numbers, the job market has stayed strong, to everybody's kind of
super strong.
surprise,
Yeah,
because they wanted to see some weakness in that as they raised, but they haven't seen that. So I think that they're taking a smart step back, trying to assess, and then they'll see. But the Fed funds tracker still is pretty confident on the no raise for the
yeah.
next raise. So I think
I
it's still
think
like
yeah,
95 or 98%. Uh,
something like that. Yeah, we're not we're
yeah,
not we're not pricing in any rate hikes or anything like that too. Um,
exactly.
yeah, and to your point, there is that other piece of the economy, or like part of the calculus of inflation is actually like, I guess in the newer school of thought, like now part of that calculus goes like, where does where does the market think that inflation is going? And so just the idea of like where we think where the market thinks inflation is going is going to have a factor into how that actually plays out. So back to that messaging campaign, that's a large reason why we see some of that kind of stuff going on too. So just an aside, if you hear, I forgot who it was like, oh, one Fed president is like, yep, I think we're sufficiently restrictive, and then the next day Powell comes out and says, I don't think we're sufficiently restrictive. Like that's all kind of pretty much planned out. But anyways, net, it was really like, yeah, they think that rates could rise if inflation stays sticky, which again, if you're looking at neutral rates or things like that, we do want to have, to get inflation down, technically we want to have the yield slightly higher than CPI or inflation. And so that's kind of where we're sitting. And so anything slightly over that, as long as GDP stays at a like 2% or lower rate, then that should hold true, and inflation should slowly but surely come down. A couple other headlines we did have. So last week we were looking at an OPEC plus meeting coming up, and that was pushed out. I think that now is pushed out to November 30th. So there's an oil catalyst on deck. It's kind of a push-pull catalyst, right? So I think it was like some of the African nations are trying to like lobby for higher like limits of what they're able to produce. So some smaller African nations are trying to be able to produce more, since they were only given a small quota or small number to meet. And at the same time, I think Russia's been constantly talking about bringing supply down. So there's a little push pull on that. The meeting was postponed to the 30th. So look for some kind of oil catalyst around that OPEC plus meeting. That's going to be a big one for the sector. And I know those oil stocks are way low right now, so they look juicy. Yes, I know, but again, we got a couple more days until that catalyst actually hits. And sometimes it might just be better to wait, right? Because you never know. Russia says all kinds of stuff, and OPEC Plus says all kinds of stuff, and what they do isn't always the same thing as what they say. So there is that. Another thing, so funny, the zero DTE trading in SPX has gotten all the, a ton of headlines in the, let's say, more mature market trading area, and a lot of people think, oh, zero DTEs are pretty crazy, or too wildly speculative. I know Sharky and I pretty much live on that. And some people are very much against that, but hey, I got news. Zero DTE markets are coming to the Treasury and commodities sooner than later. I don't know the release. Did you catch that headline, Sharky?
No, I didn't see it.
Yeah. So we're gonna have gold and Treasury, things like that. Zero DTEs coming soon. I guess I could look it up. Zero DTE to commodities.
I believe Microsoft just hit 52-week highs.
I mean,
we were talking about that last week, remember?
Yeah, that's going to be 2 weeks ago, right? So that's going to be a daily thing for sure. I cannot tell you enough. Like that looks just like, what are we, 380? I was saying this looks like a $400 stock before the end of the year. We're well on our way. Yeah. That's, I mean, probably one of the best performing stocks that I
it's
own.
kind of picking up the slack as Apple's kind of really.
Yeah. We snagged that. I snagged it like 310, 315, something like that. But I had a lower target to the downside, and I just remembered, I was talking to Evan, the stock market news Evan, and we were looking at it last year at 275, and I just barely or 215, something like that. I just barely missed my entry, and I just never got another shot at it. So this year I was like, no, I'm just gonna take it down. I'm just going for it. So I'm glad.
There you go. You learned from last year's.
Yeah, for sure. I actually have a couple this week that I'm gonna go over where there are some good spots, and I know the market's run quite a bit, right? But at the same time, it's like, how much room do we have? Sorry, I'm just adjusting my table here. See if I get a little bit better. There's a couple stocks that I still think I'm like, well, I'm looking at this. I'm like, there's some good stuff that's still available that hasn't just like completely run off. And we'll take a look at some of those this week also. So I still think that there's definite opportunities out there. The market in general will hit some levels. Unfortunately, Sharky can't get the screen share today. We're gonna have to start a GoFundMe for Sharky's new computer soon, so we can get him off of the laptop. But yeah, I think there's some good stuff out there that's still available to buy. So I will go through some of those today also. Just moving forward. So we're gonna hit this is the week ahead, right? So last week, probably the lowest last Friday is technically the lowest volume day of the year every year. And there's this week, by the way, we do have another holiday week, right? And so this is not typically a week that you're going to see a ton of volume. There are some things that are out there. I just want to caution everyone that's trading, just, if you can stay focused around catalysts, that's usually going to be the best way to find your trades, right? So we talked about the November 30th OPEC Plus meeting. That's going to come out as a catalyst. I think it was like last Friday, crypto, right? The crypto explosion. Coinbase was probably the best trade out there. And we have, actually, I saw some of that continuing this morning. I haven't checked on it in a little bit. But here's the rest.
Mara, Coin, and Riot have all been pretty strong today. I took a look at Bitcoin, though. Bitcoin is actually down a little bit, so I was surprised at that.
I mean, Bitcoin's not a funky spot. So, I'm an OG crypto guy, just so you know, right? And what I would say is that you ever heard the term crypto winter and crypto summer?
I have heard that, but I think I tried that last year and it didn't work.
Right. Well, I mean, it's all around Thanksgiving, right? So like the crypto summer is during the winter, and it usually peaks on Thanksgiving Day, right? And that's because, like that one Thanksgiving was, hey, like everybody, crypto was on this huge pump, and everybody went home and was like, hey, I've made this so much money. They talk about Bitcoin and crypto at the Thanksgiving table, and they're like, how do you even buy it? And then all these Coinbase, wallets got opened, and like it just went like absolutely bonkers that one year. And usually when people get around the table with family members, start looking at that kind of stuff, that tends to be part of the conversation. Let me just go ahead and pull up one thing. But about this time, I usually like to look. Oh yeah. So there's a chart. God, today my screens are not working with me. There's a chart. This is Bitcoin, Ethereum chart, right? It's a pairs trade, if you will, kind of like a gold silver pairs trade. This is the one that I look at for the most part because I do like Bitcoin, but like for me, it's all about what we call alt season. And when this chart starts to go, this is going to start to tell me that, hey, look, it's time to kind of rotate out of your large cap, like, cryptos into some smaller cap stuff. But just saying, be very cautious. This is basically saying Ethereum is going to be a bit stronger than Bitcoin for a while. So that's what that is. But I'll put
So
that
you're
up.
saying to be careful there in the crypto.
Yeah, I mean, like it's in a change phase, right? Like, so you're gonna be bouncing around for a little bit, give it a bit. But that's what this is kind of where maybe your Ethereum's over 2,000 as long as it's holding. It's looking good, right? But yeah, I mean, geez, always be careful, right? We've had some serious runs like in these altcoins that are already up like 100%. Like I'm looking at Solana, Avalanche, those are like my main ones. Algo is it's just okay, but a lot of stuff just looks like we're gonna get some rotation. Anyways, that's a whole other sector. It's its own market. It has its own sectors inside that market. Don't want to get too far in the weeds. So anyway, so this week, sorry, coming up, we have so like this is you're saying Solana, that's that's a double that's 150% in since the end of October, some of these things. But yeah, it's very hard to be able to know. You kind of have to know which ones are. It's like the stock market, right? Like there's a lot of crap like Nicola out in crypto land in the cryptoverse, but there's way more crap than there is good. So yeah, know somebody and don't pick some hype coin, some shit coin, hopefully. Anyways, let's get back to this one. So today we really don't have a whole lot. I do want to point out that we have a lot of bond auctions this week. So we talked about bond auctions last week, and we've seen some serious effects on the market that these bond auctions have been having. And we had a handful, I believe it was today too. So like, what do we have today? We had
I think Monday. It's the 2 and the 10.
Yeah, so we already had a handful. The 2-year note came out. Yield lower, so there's some good demand there. So when I look at some of these yields on these bond auctions, I'm looking for the yields to go down. That means that there's some demand out there. What we're really kind of watching for is like, what would be scary is if nobody was there to buy it, right? Like if we lose anybody's interest in actually buying these bonds, then it's going to be a little sketchy. We do have another one coming up in a little bit. So the 6-month came out, T-bill. So anything under 2 years is just like T-bills. That came out pretty much unchanged. And then we have a 3-month in a little bit, and then this is what I'm looking at, and then we have a 5-year later on today also. And then a 7-year tomorrow. Look at this liquidity. They're still flooding the market. 17-week after that, 4-week, 8-week. I mean, I thought we were supposed to be selling less, but we're still flooding the market with some bonds. So that's we'll see how that goes. Basically, tomorrow we do have consumer confidence and a ton of speeches, right? So expect more of the same in terms of some of that messaging campaign to come across. If you thought we were out of the woods, well, that's where things start to get interesting. Friday, by the way, we do have Powell on deck, so he does have a speech on Friday, which is going to be.
Do you know where he's speaking? I didn't see.
Where he's speaking, I'm not sure. No, I didn't look that up. But let me see. Well, here, you can look that up while we're going through this. But Wednesday, so Wednesday is the day where we really start getting hit with some actual data points, right? So Wednesday we have GDP and something called the Beige Book. If you're not familiar with what the Beige Book is, that's essentially where all the Fed presidents kind of get together and they put their little synopsis together of what they recommend to the FOMC in terms of their specific what do we call it, like zone or whatever the region is, right? Like you have a San Francisco Fed president talks about San Francisco area, that kind of stuff. But the big one Wednesday is going to be GDP. So this is the second look, right? So every quarter we get a GDP reading, and this is kind of like your main gauge for the market. And we get this once a month, so 3 looks every quarter, and then the quarterly number comes out. So before we were at 4.9, right? And I'm just going to open this really quick, and this was that 4.9 forecast that really just caught the market off guard. We want to see like sustained 2% or lower in general, right? But this was the first look Q4 forecast, or Q3 forecast, sorry. And you know, it is what it is, right? It's just the forecast, but they're I guess, I mean, really bad at their GDP forecasting. So take it with a grain of salt. But this is a market moving event, right? So right now, here's the thing, right? So the consensus is 5%, right? The prior came in at 2.1%, and the forecast was at 4.8 or something like that forecast that actually took the market, caught the market off guard, and we created that very most recent sell-off. And then since then, we've been getting these revisions and revisions and revisions. So I don't expect anything close to that number. But, you know, if we get something that's like a 2% or lower for the second revision, second look at this Q3 GDP, I could seriously see the market taking off on something like that, especially when the forecast and the consensus is up at 5%. That's just insanely high. If we get something like a 3, we're probably flat. But for, you know, God forbid if we get something that's higher, that would be something major. We do. So here's what the Fed's really going to be looking at. They're going to be looking at this core number here.
Yeah,
this is core PC for GDP for the quarter over quarter. So this is going to be an important one. It's not highlighted as something that's important, but just keep in mind, you know, this is one to pull out of that little stack of numbers that we'll get on Wednesday. That is an important one too. Again, prior 3.7, consensus is low, right? Lower than what the prior was. So consensus is looking for that to come down. So this is the main thing. So GDP Wednesday, that's going to kick us off. And then we do get the beige book later on. And again, the beige book is something that doesn't really move markets that day, but then the analysts kind of like take that apart and start really looking into it, and you'll start to hear about you know, who's hawkish, who's dovish, that kind of stuff. And that's really what's going to come from that one. And it'll be digested over the next day or two, right? For the rest of the week. And then Thursday we get hit with the major number of the week. So that's going to be core PCE. This is, again, the Fed's favorite inflation gauge right here. So this is the one where it's like, this is our actual spending. This is not going to capture like Black Friday stuff, so I wouldn't really worry about that too much. This is for October's month over month PC. So we're not talking about, you know, Black Friday, which would be late November, right? That's later on. So what we're looking at, consensus is 0.2%, prior 0.3%. Here's the one where, like, if we get something funky, like if we get a 0, which is very possible, if we get a 0 or we get a negative number, that's what the market's going to, like, they're just going to eat that up, and we're going to probably rocket. Like, it's going to be a rocket ship. But if we come in and we get something like a 0.5%, this is where it's like, okay, I could really see the bottom falling out on stocks, right? So this is a serious pivot day, 2 kind of pivot days, one on Wednesday, the next one Thursday. There's this Thursday pre-market. So if you're swinging things, just be aware, look, these are 2 days where there's a lot of data that can be some serious market moving events. Just kind of be cautious of that kind of stuff. Other than that, I mean, it's not, you know, this market really doesn't care about continuing claims or jobless numbers. I think we know, hey, look, we've been pretty strong overall. We get some more Fed speeches, some more bond auctions, and then that takes us into Friday, where Papa Powell is going to hit us. This is 8 a.m. Pacific, so just about an hour and a half or so into the open market. Will start to come on. Did you figure out where he's going to be talking?
I couldn't find it. I was looking yesterday as well. I gave up. I looked again for 10 minutes and I said,
Yeah. I mean, you know, it is what it is, but just know, hey, look, so this is midday Friday. We'll get some stuff from him. We got Fedbar earlier, Goolsby. I mean, this is like more and more people coming.
Tomorrow's the day. I think we have 5 Fed speakers tomorrow.
Yeah, you know, like I just see this as like they might this is weird, right? But I'm like, they might see this number like already, like this PCE number. Maybe they know it's like a 0, and they're like, they gotta like taper expectations like right away, and then Powell's gonna come in and be like, nope, don't believe anything you see. But yeah, this is like they don't want us to get too far over our skis in general, and honestly, it's not healthy to be too far over our skis either. So there is that. So again, here's the recap, right? So today, not much. Tomorrow, a lot of speeches. We do get some consumer confident numbers. That's been over 100. That's really where we want to stand or stay. I think that's not going to be a huge event. But then Wednesday, GDP. Then boom, Thursday, PCE, and then Friday, Papa Powell comes home.
Papa Powell coming home.
Yes, sir. So just a quick look at earnings. So I do watch some of these earnings stuff. Last week we had Walmart in the Dow. So I tracked the Dow 30 components. So all the stocks in the Dow 30, US 30, whatever you want to call it. So we've had 24 beats, 3 misses, and 1 met expectations. That would be Walmart last week. And this week we have CRM. And that's really it. So this is, as we get into earnings season, we're starting to slow down. But what's true is if you look at this trend, look, we're holding, right? We're doing pretty well overall. I don't think, are we peak earnings? I don't know. If this is stable right here, that's what we want to see, right? Whether or not this is just they're beating their forecast, whether or not their stock goes up or down, totally irrelevant. Not the same thing. But here's the calendar this week moving forward. We do have, so it was CRM is going to be Wednesday after the close. So it looks like Wednesday, Thursday, it's going to be our biggest moving days this week. We'll see how that sets up for a Tuesday. It doesn't really, kind of sets up for a chop fest, honestly, today and tomorrow until we get some of this actual data points. But some of these other ones, right? So we have Snowflake, Okta, Synopsys. I don't know if you guys
A lot
have
of
seen
SaaS companies, right? I think
yeah,
CRM
so that's where I was going with this, right? If you're gonna look at some of these sectors, right, like XHV. So here's my kind of like basic sector check or sector view, if you will. Open. And again, I like to use a 30-minute chart. So this is IGV, right? And I'll just go on the daily so it looks a little bit cleaner. This is the software sector, like software sector as a whole. Probably one of the most, like when tech is going, this ends up being like one of your most bullish charts, really. Like this is, if I compare this to like the Qs, right? It's higher beta. If I compare this to SMH, they all look similar, but IGV is the one where when it starts to go, this thing really starts to blast off. And right now it's not like the rest, where the high on the software sector 450, semis are already over their highs. God, look at that, Sharky. Have you seen the SMH?
No,
thing.
I haven't.
Yeah, so SMH at highs. I think the Qs were pretty much there also. Yeah, very close to you.
Close. Yeah.
Very close to you. So I think like the next sector really to take off typically is going to be IGV, and it usually takes off in a very, very strong way. So just keep that in mind. That's who we have up next. I am like, this is the tech sector XLK. Also, you can kind of watch it. This is actually at highs. Oddly enough, I wouldn't have expected to see that. That's not typical. Usually IGV starts to lead us in this area. But anyways, so that's the sectors. And I think, we got Workday, CrowdStrike, all of this in that SaaS area. Splunk has earnings, but they are, I think that deal is going down. Cisco should be buying them. So I don't expect much to move that. Zscaler today after the close will move like a CrowdStrike. It will move a Palo Alto Networks. Just so you know, Zscaler, if you don't know what that is a software version of Palo Alto. So PanW, they're direct competitors, firewalls. So like that is the direct competitor to Palo Alto. Palo Alto did pretty well. Zscaler, I think you can kind of infer, but anyways, they're huge multiple, like a Snowflake type multiple. Anything else in here jumping out? Not really. we've seen a lot of like retail go last week, and
Yeah,
I
a lot
think
of
we're
the
getting
retail names did well. I mean, I
yeah,
think PayPal was up. There was some kind of Black Friday, moves in the market going on with some of the retailers.
yeah.
Some of them, Walmart had a nice push.
So
PayPal
what I'd
was
say
up.
is like
Square was
this
up.
deep into earnings season, the moves tend to be a little bit smaller. Number one, and if we look back at like what's gone on so far, is that like it's really been the companies that had like no good news baked in, right? So like, um, Casey, our buddy Casey, might be looking at a Dollar Tree, right? Like,
Yeah.
so a Dollar Tree, and a Foot Locker, these type of things might be a better play, if you will, in terms of earning stuff. Where if there's no good news priced in and they just kind of do okay, those are the moves that we've really been seeing, right? Like, Zoom was like a bust in terms of price action, but this week looks like a little bit better. Five Below is another discount storage or discount retailer. Sorry, I was looking at Pure Storage. That's a storage company. Like anyways, we have Dell, Big Lots, and I'm pretty decently sized on Ulta. Man, if I just go through the rest of this, like Domo software, Elastic software, and then so looks like some of the retail's kind of finishing up. PDD Pinduoduo, I think that's a probably the most bullish Chinese stock out there, other than Gnots he likes Neo for whatever reason. Somebody should tell him to look at what is it, ZI? I think it was not ZI. It's Li Auto. That's what it was.
We
LI.
all know Cracker Barrel is going to be the big.
I mean, Cracker Barrel is huge, right? Like I'm all about the okra, fried okra. Like that's a big. Actually, we don't even have Cracker Barrels out here, man. I'll just say. But anyways, yeah, that's. I mean, some of the software sector finishing off. I mean, retail. Build a Bear might be your best shot, Sharky, on that one. BBW is that? Yeah, BBW for you. But that kind of brings us into the rest of the Santa Claus rally, if you will. And so if you didn't know, yes, there is a thing called the Santa Claus rally. And yes, we're in the midst of it. We are like right here. So at the end of November, you get this first push into the end of this month. And then that kind of like pulls back a little bit. And this is like the second or third week, second, maybe somewhere between the first and second week of December. Then we tend to get a second push right into the end of the month, and that's what this is going to look like. This is actually just web searches, by the way. So, but what does that really look like? So typically, this looks like a 2% at most kind of move. What I would say is that we have a big caveat right now. This is we've moved like 9% so far this month, and then we're going to overlay this. This is just some quick election year data. When I first did this, when we shared this, I think this was like in October. We've had this here, so I just using the same screen grab. But this is October of last year. This is this year, right? Here's the end of this year, and then moving into next year. This is the fourth year of an election cycle. We do tend to have a big year, right? But this year, right now, tends to be the strongest year, and I think we're at about the 3-year average. And then next year we should have a good year again, but it's not typically historically as good as this year. But with that said, there is another sector that does tend to kind of like pop off right around now, and that's the small caps, right? So small caps typically, let me get back to small caps typically have their season start actually in January, but it looks like we might be moving on just a little bit. So those look good to me. We'll see. That's going to be your biggest catch-up trade. Has been your biggest catch-up trade, and we'll see. Really, after it's going to be Wednesday, Thursday. See if that continues on. So I think that said, Sharky, what do you want to do? We got to move into the next section where we get a little like Miss Cleo action going, or do you want to hop in the
Halloween might be behind us, but we like to
Ooh,
keep it.
all right.
Hold on. Here we go. Did you get the new?
Yeah. So
All
we're
right.
gonna move on to a new section of our let's say presentation, but we're gonna call this Papers Prophecies. So here we go. Get ready. All right, guys. So Sharky's in it too. So this is the part of the show where we go through, we look at our friend Miss Cleo. We don't have another name for her, and she gives us a tarot card reading for the week, right? And so here it is. So these are the cards for the week. We get what she calls a theme card, and we have a day, one card for each day of the week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So theme card is the Ace of Wands, and she's going to walk us through. So we close the month back to back Ace of Wands theme cards. Quite interesting, especially since wands have been so prevalent this month, right? Featuring that. Expect some big energy this week. Last week we saw a rally Monday into Tuesday, retracement, and then some topping action to close the week. Lots of impulsivity, and now that the holiday's over, she looks like she's thinking we're going to have some actual movement this week. Interesting. So I just did a quick, if you want to begin with the end, we can walk through it. It's a little bit long, but I'll give you a quick moment if you want to screenshot what the actual daily breakdowns look like. But recap is basically trend Monday. So far, I don't know if she's right on that. We'll see. It was pretty choppy this Monday, but the day's not over, so we can give her a little bit. Looks like we're about to start trending now. Trend Monday into Tuesday, completion and pivot. Wednesday is a new journey. Interesting. That's when we get our.
That's when we get the GDP.
PCE, all that stuff. Wednesday's a new journey, and Thursday brings possible continuation into whatever Wednesday's direction is. So I think so far that sounds really good to me. Friday starts weak, but ends up okay. So actually, when I read the cards, so she says Friday is going to be like an intraday reversal. But Wednesday is the biggest pivot of the week. That lines up with all the economic data points for the week. Thursday likely continuing that trend of whatever Wednesday was. So let's get into the daily cards and just see what she has for us in store. So Monday, the Chariot. We're harnessing dual spirits here to manifest movement and travel across great. You guys can screenshot this too. Dual stretches. Let's see if we can make it a little bit bigger. I don't know. That's about as good as we're probably going to get. Does something happen? Not sure. Possible Ace of Wands to convert it into a 2 this week, which means a new journey. A new journey at the highs would imply downside. So she's thinking maybe downside. Tuesday, card is the World. So the primary message is that completion, we've achieved a financial goal and it's time to harvest. So thinking take profit Tuesday. Okay. Oh, that's a good one. Take profit Tuesday. Okay. Pretty ominous. This could be a major pivot, especially if Monday was green. If Monday was down, then this day is probably completes that. Wednesday is Ace of Pentacles. This card arrives at a perfect time to inform us that we're starting the new financial journey. Big pivot day, right? Little eerie, to be honest. The card anyway, it's pretty simple. Trade as follows: trade and follow Tuesday's advice. Look for a pivot and then get on the opposite side. I don't know, like they're doing this. Look for a pivot and then get on the opposite side. This is like some of that. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like the Fed.
Yeah, the Fed, right? So we'll see. Thursday, Queen of Swords. Some real movement. The Queen has the power to cut through zones that get in her way. So we're looking to break range on Thursday. Interesting.
Oh, that is interesting because normally swords is kind of a negative, you know.
Dude, I mean, this looks like she's turning negative as the week goes. Just as an aside, right? Perfect time to force. Anyways, she's take profit Tuesday. And Wednesday, Ace of Pentacles. This card is actually historically negative on the Wednesday card. So a topping pattern early in the week seems possible. I don't know. Thursday, Queen of Swords. Yeah. Can see Ace is a new start and the Queen as the finisher. I think she basically looks like she's really not sure, but it's going to be a trend day. I would take that, right? Trend day, likely following whatever Wednesday was. Friday, 5 of Wands. Some play fighting to do, which means that we're going to see some bouts of selling that are ultimately harmless and get bought. And then she's turning positive on Friday. So, I mean, this is totally classic, right? Average is flat, which follows the trend, selling early, coming back to even in the afternoon. So I think that just, I would read that as an intraday reversal if you really wanted to read this at all.
If we give back something on Friday, that kind of kind of gives credence to really what's kind of going on in the market. And I'm sure we're going to get into, what we've been trading in for the last few sessions, of course, the holiday, but we've
Yeah.
really been in this balance zone right now, this range zone, kind of trading back and forth. And we've talked about that running or resting many
Yep.
times.
Yep.
And now we're just in that rest mode. So,
We are.
that kind of, even if we do get another rally up, again, higher, but just to come back and fall in, maybe we'll
Yeah.
look at some false breakouts, things like that. But it should be interesting. To see
Yeah, I think I'm just looking at the charts too. It's like we barely just broke the pre-market highs just now, but we're still not over yesterday's high, and we just ran into that like pretty heavily. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna pull up the charts real quick. So this is my daily look here. So this is a 30-minute candlestick chart that I use pretty much. I mean, not pretty much. I use every time I open my trading view, open my charts. This is the first thing that I see. I will say so. SPY here, Qs, diamonds, the top three major indices right here. We are in consolidation. Looks like it wants to move out, but we got some catalysts on deck, so I would be a little cautious. We'll see, right? Diamonds, to me, this has been probably the most constructive base that we have formed, but we're pretty much at targets, right? So just again, a lot of upside targets have happened. What I'm going to do, and then IWM, of course, the redheaded stepchild of the market, does what she wants. So here, I haven't moved these orange boxes. If you follow us, these orange boxes, by the way, that is an average week's range. We were talking about last week possibly being a very small, very tight, thinking half an average week's range. That's exactly what happened, and that pretty much all happened Monday, right? Come in and we moved half an average week, and then pull back, bounce, and that's exactly where we are right now. So if we do. Let's say do that again. So I'm gonna give you my level really quick, and I'm gonna look at, and I like this 30-minute candlestick chart mostly because I can really start to see where did buyers and sellers start to step in, and where they really held, like, where do they have a lot of interest. So this was this breakout level here that we were trying to get through. I do have my volume profile on the right hand side, but I would say really it's like this 452 type level. So if we go back to Monday's range, right? This was
that's the Monday candle's the CPI gap, right?
no,
No,
so
is that Tuesday?
CPI is way over
Oh,
here,
okay,
right?
okay.
So
We're
we
talking
have some
about that.
huge
Okay,
fair
got
value
it.
gaps to the downside, but if you trade, we have a gap trading system. Look, I am not thinking that we're going to fill this gap anytime, at least until we're trending towards it. We're not trending towards it right now. We haven't broken any levels. We're not going to trend towards that until we're sub 450. So if we're sub 450, yeah, we're going to fill that gap, and it's like a 10-point gap in short order. But until then, we're defending levels, right? And so honestly, I could take this at the very downside of last week. This is where we kind of opened up. This was Monday. We never broke Friday, like that last week's high ended up being 2 weeks ago's high ended up being last week's low throughout the whole week, right?
Yeah,
and so
nice.
I would take that, and I'm just looking at this 30-minute kind of candlestick setup here. Again, this is where we pulled back, and so about 452 is where I'm going to say you can see them really starting to step in. So I don't have like major view, but so like here, right around here, and in the post market here. So this is about 452, I'd say. That's going to be my major pivot. As long as we're holding this level, yeah, I just don't see where we can really be bearish. Like this could really come. This is 452 even, right? So there it is. That's better, right? So here, right here, and right here, those are cleaner. 452. So yeah, all of this is the main kind of defensive area. This is where the bulls have stepped in once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times and defended it. I mean, as long as we're over this, I'm not even thinking about that downside gap, right? So that's really, and that's that key break of structure out of last week or the week before. Sorry. So between now and then, I mean, this still puts that upside target at 460, give or take. And I have that. What's that coming from here? That's coming from this top over here. You could even say 456. We already hit 46. So yeah, it would have to be up in here, this level. So up near that 460 level, honestly, that's what this looks like to me. As long as we're holding that 452 level, a half a average week is going to put us right about there for that 459. That's to be about the halfway point. And then if we could do continue on a full week's range, it's going to be just over 460, so 463 give or take. Which
460. That whole that 458 to 460. That whole area is like very.
yeah. So this is like our top right in here. I didn't know that was there before. I just put the line. Looks like we have this topping section right around here. Oh yeah, this is a lot. I actually like this little double top here is pretty interesting, and you can kind of pull that across.
Oh,
But
that's a big area for me. Well, are you in the daily? No, you're still in the 30-minute.
well, I'm way. Oh, geez, we can pull this all the way back over here. 455. No, 460. Yeah, I mean this whole section, right? It would be this tall, give or take, and then we can kind of drag it over. Yeah, it gets to 460. That's exactly where the top of that is. So 460 right in here. That puts us like right at like a major level. So I think this sets up to be smaller moves, Sharky. Like, I mean, between now and the end of the year, honestly. But that would be the range. That's about like 6 points. It's not horrible. We could hit that 6 points on Wednesday and retrace it Thursday. We could fall out, and that could be a single day, honestly, with the kind of data that we have. But for now, yeah, we're just chopping right at yesterday's kind of levels and this key support. So we do have a volume profile here. This is going to be a pretty big pivot at 455, right? So that's going to be last week's high. Not last week's high. What day is this? The 20th. What day is the 20th? Let me get my calendar. Yeah, last Monday's high of the 20th. So as long as we're over that, I think that's going to be, we want to stay somewhat bullish, but so far this type of setup looks more kind of like debit spreads, time spreads, credit spreads type trading is going to probably do you best until we get
Max and you are the masters of this.
Yeah, I'm more a time spread type of guy, but let's look at the cues really quick. So I think so it's a very similar level here. We can see it pretty clean from last week. Same kind of thing, right? So this is 386 on the cues. We have a break of structure here. This is Monday's high, 388 to 383. This is going to be your like supply is what I'd call it, right? So supply zone in here from last week. If we take an average week's range from today's low, that takes us to 400. But 390, man, 390 is a huge level, right? So we're same thing on the cues. We are holding this uptrend. We've failed, reclaimed, and now we're holding that uptrend from over here, and we're right into this level, right into that same kind of setup that we had on SPY, but it's up here on the cues, and I think this is going to line up almost exactly the same, right? So that would bring like 397 max upside. But if you go back and we look at this kind of this area, this is a lot of congestion right in here. So how long did we stay here?
Dag, I just missed this short trade I was watching.
This looks like this was about 2 months of consolidation that we spent in this zone the last time we were here. So yeah, just be really careful.
There's
not sure we break out of that guy.
Well, one thing that I am watching though is the if go back on the TNX, because before that was really the thing that was putting a lot of pressure, obviously on the markets. If you go into the weekly and you're going to look at that 43 area, look at where we're retesting here. That's going to be a big area. So we're really going to need to see this 10-year get below that. You can see it right there, right? So
yeah.
It's
So
back
if you don't know what TNX is, this is
if it holds that. I mean, they still have a chance.
Yeah. No,
so
I think
it's just something to consider there.
I think you're spot on though, Sharky. Like we looked at, the calendar. We have a ton of bond auctions on deck, flooding the market with more liquidity. If there's buyers, then this should continue to come down. And I honestly, you're pretty much spot on. Like we're pretty,
Well, I just like the bullish case more if we can start really accepting below that, nice
yeah,
weekly acceptance below that, and then we can really have a little bit more firm,
yeah.
sense on that. So
No, I
this is
think this
just
is
one
going
thing
to
to be
be like,
warned of, because we
yeah,
haven't broke that structure yet.
the main cues, right? So TNX, I was going back over to the Dixie, right? So in terms of like my cues, what am I looking at really? Like, so we had like, okay, dollar was kind of starting to break down. Finally, we got this huge breakout. Now we're back down in here. As long as the dollar is coming down, that's going to be somewhat bullish. If the yield pops, right, this is the TNX. So you could do US 10Y is the 10-year yield, should look exactly the same. And sure enough, it does. Right, that's the exact same line right there for 433.5 was that last breakout level. So if it holds that, like I kind of want to be somewhat cautious, but if you break down, that would be yields coming down. What's the TLT going to look like? It looks like TLT would pop up just a little bit. On that, I think if that yield comes down and TLT comes up, then that's going to be pretty decent, right? Let me move these things around. So crude, and we'll go back to your TNX just because that's a little bit easier to find. Yeah, so if the TNX or the yield comes down, I'm just going to sync this really quick globally, and the dollar's coming down.
The break under that 43 might be what could send us to that 460.
Yeah. So this is going to be that level, right? Like if it does pull back below this, typically, like if I was trading this as a breakout trader and I looked at this as like some cup and handle, like honestly, I wouldn't be buying this right here. I would expect this to come down just a little bit more anyways. And maybe do something
To be fair.
something like that.
It's not really. It's like not really. Like I could see
Yeah.
how you can say it's a cup and handle, but
Yeah.
it's not.
No, it's not.
It's
right
too
now.
high.
It is too high.
Yeah.
Crack me up, dude. But anyways, I'm over here charting on bonds and yields, dude. Whatever. But yeah, so I think Dixie's at a pretty interesting spot. The yields are at an interesting spot. I think those two things are really going to tell us the story, right? So if the dollar continues down and the yields continue down, that's going to be bullish across the board. If for whatever reason, right, equities, like let's say the yields start bouncing and the dollar still continues to go down. I have this trade in my back pocket. That's gold. And I still think that this is, I think it's still going. I don't know if it's like this is going to be the case, but what we just kind of outlaid, to me, that's really where the rubber would hit the road on something like this, right? So if equities start to stall or continue to stall, but the dollars continue to drop, that's when I think the gold trade really gets some legs under it. And this is a weekly chart, right? So again, weekly chart, this is whatever your multi-year cup and handle, if you will. Sure, it's too high. But this would be that kind of breakout. But what's true right now is that we are trending 6 months highs. I think I heard this morning on gold. This is like gold futures. So if we can like accept over, it's really all the way up to like 2100. And that's going to be kind of like that all-time break on gold right now. But yeah, I'm very interested in this trade, especially if equities start to slow down. And then of course we have the oil trade on deck too. So that's going to be here. I just do want to take a quick look. So
I mean, it's such a different macro environment, but I wonder seasonality. Do commodities like this have any seasonality with the winter?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, neither do I. It'd be something interesting to look at. I wonder if there's a seasonality thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like you said, if there is that weakness in, well, one could, sometimes people say, okay, well, it's winter, CL is going to go up because people are using heating more. I don't know. That's what people say. I don't know if there's really any credence to me. It seems like kind of a
it moves like that. But like, so right now the whole thing is like, oh, the China reopening is not as bullish as people thought it was. And that's kind of like where, what that's why it was not having the same kind of move it was having before, and why it kind of pulled back a little bit. I would say though, like we are entering a zone where, I think, if when the government was selling Well, this is actually where they were filling the SPR, and we're kind of like right back into that same area. So if you just zoom out, look left, this is kind of like your demand zone, if you will,
Yeah.
like
Well,
all this area here.
that's the prior accumulation from the one the Y caught.
Yeah, exactly. And so like what I'm looking at here is like, okay, we had our little breakout, right? And then now we're just retesting. So we
Yeah.
had this, right? And so if this right now, and this is why I think this trade is interesting, and probably a lot of other people would too. Right now, we're just now retesting that prior like supply zone,
Oh
if
yeah,
you will.
no, this is a very interesting. You know, oil is so hard because it's so data dependent, and there are
Yeah,
all these kind of things that can come out. You don't even know. I was in a trade on oil, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and some data
yeah,
came out, and I was like, oh, luckily it went in my favor. But you really
yeah,
need to be up to speed there. But just from the technicals perspective, I love this because it did the full Wyckoff cycle, and this is
yeah,
exactly what SPY did this past whole downturn, and now with this rally we came back into a prior accumulation zone. So here we sit in a very interesting place, and we do know that obviously if oil does catch a bid, sometimes that can work on inflation and sometimes put some pressure on equities in general.
yeah, for sure. So this is what we're looking at, right? So Sharky's talking about Wyckoff accumulation. That's exactly what this whole thing is right here, right? Where it dips right back into that prior supply, if you will. And we look at this exact level, like right in here, right? For where did we hit it, right? So this is where we are.
And
This
you
is
can
that.
see it on the volume profile as well,
Yep.
the stronger accumulation there, or
Yeah.
this
So
activity in the auction.
So we're battling here, right? This exact zone as we speak. So I think this puts us at a point where now if we get back into like raw price action, it's constructive. It's not a change of character, right? So we have lows, lower highs, nothing but lower lows and lower highs. So let's not get this confused, right? So you have a break of character or like break of structure up here, to be completely fair.
All
Um,
right, paper. I got something for you here. We have.
we have a
Thank you,
question.
Sniper Sharget. She's telling me here the gold enters a very good seasonality phase, which starts in mid-November and goes till the second half of February.
Oh, so that's right about now. We are
So.
mid-November. Tell her to get on YouTube, and then she can throw the comments up there. Uh, then we can put her up. Um, so yeah. So I think so. Profit link is pretty spot on, right? So need that higher high on crude oil. Yes, it's constructive because what do we have? We so let's be clear. Nothing but lower highs and lower lows, right? On crude, we do have a lower low here. This is a lower high. If this is a higher low, that's the first kind of basing thing. What we want to see is we want to see a higher high, right? And you're still kind of just chilling. So where does a higher high have to be? So a higher high has to be over 78.46 on crude futures. So that's our last lower high here. So we want to see an impulse somewhere in here, and then we want to see it come down.
Mhm,
And that when it comes down, if it locks in a higher low, one
mhm.
more time,
And
boom,
you take the
then we
trip.
go, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
that's your price action 101, right?
Yeah, that's
So
breaking the neckline there, come
exactly.
back, retest the breakout, and then you
Yeah,
got
so
that.
the long trade isn't trying. So this is what we don't do is we don't try to snipe. We don't try to catch bottoms, right? Like that's like it,
Yeah, I might do
it.
it.
Yeah, we
No,
try,
no, I
but like
can't
it
stand
doesn't. It
oil.
doesn't usually work out that well. But anywhere in this area, right? After you break structure, and this could happen in like a single trading day. It could be like over the course of 2 days or whatever. It's gonna basically break this range, come back and do a little retest inside here, and then it's gonna once you lock in that next higher low after making a higher high, then you're all clear, right? That's the all clear. If you want to take the pot shot now, have at it, right? Your stop has to be 72.86, or that prior low, whatever this prior low is. It's not a horrible trade, right? It's okay, but you have a stop, and you should know that hey, we have a downtrend at the moment. But we have the catalyst, right? So I think the catalyst will give you the you know the green light or the red light on this trade. I'm just gonna set these alerts on my end. right here. Cool. I think we're good. So that's it for me. Gold. This is, I mean, I like it. I'm long. I'm still long equities, but I did promise that there's going to be a couple stocks that I would take a look at that I think have some interesting things ahead, and maybe some spots that we could actually
Well,
continue to get
you're
long.
big. I hear a bird said that you're big on hot wings.
Wings, dude. Okay, Wingstop. First of all, have you guys seen this chart? Wingstop. We have a back channel with some other traders, and like one of the guys is like,
Never doubt the
"Oh
America's
my
love for
god!"
wings.
I mean, long chicken wings all day for sure. But this is like this is epic chart. I don't really know what to say on this one. There's not much you can really say. If you did want to do one thing, God, look at this. Like I can't trade that one. It's already going right. You missed the boat. But if you're into the fast food stuff,
Long lemon
Domino's, Domino's. If you like pizza, did catch a really nice upgrade today. This one looks constructive from a weekly perspective, kind of breaking on this zone. So yeah, on the hot wings note, that's fine. I did so my one main trade that I'm actually looking at. Believe it or not, is UPS, right? And so what we were looking at on UPS before is that we had essentially this multi-year kind of consolidation all over here, right? And so this is going to be what I'm going to call your break of structure, or really like your change of character. And a lot of times what we get in these situations, and they did have some union things going on, things like that. Yeah, long lemon pepper, man. Way to go, Wingstop. That
I
thing
was
was
laughing at that one.
yeah, lemon pepper wings are all that's the deal, man.
All right, paper though. While you go over these trades, I'm gonna jet out.
Yeah,
But thank you
okay.
so
Appreciate
much.
it,
I'll
man.
let you go on these
Yeah,
trades.
you got some trades happening in
I got
ES
some
right now,
stuff I
so
gotta
like
do.
it's all good. Um, so
All right, but
so
thanks for having me.
all
Appreciate it.
right, man.
Love you,
I'll see
brother.
you out there, Sharky. I'll hop in the spaces later. All right, so this is one where like, okay, we have Black Friday coming. UPS is way low right now. If it's over 155, so 155 is that major inflection point. That's where we're really going to be like, okay, that is changing character all the way back to the upside. But we had a big kind of like flush out on earnings. They did beat. And we started to break back out of that consolidation. I think this is going to be one of those where now that we have, and we were just going back to that oil chart. So we had lower highs after lower highs and lower lows, right? I think it's important, right? Lower high, whatever, right? Lower high, lower low. And this is where it gets interesting to me, right? So we've had nothing but this downtrend. But at this point here, we broke structure and we put in a higher low. And this is why you don't have to catch a bottom. We actually had some people catch the bottom. Shout out CC if you're watching on UPS. We've been watching this for a while, but what we're looking for is, what we have definitively done. Put in a higher high here. If we get another higher low, and it's going to come somewhere in this 148 area, I'm looking at 148 exactly, or the next green candle on UPS. You guys, I'm just going long, and I think that we do actually end up breaking back into this 155 level. I think holiday season coming back up, gifts are flying left and right. I think this one gets some love. I really like this spot from a very long-term perspective. Super interesting to me. That stop would be a hard stop, 137.50 on UPS. And then, yeah, that would end up locking in a lower high, which would make that a lower high. So I don't want to see that. But the net of the long of this short is I'm going to go long on the next higher low here. And I think that's going to happen probably tomorrow, if not today. So watch out for that trade in the servers too. That's going to be my biggest one. So we had another. So like MasterCard, we're looking was a top watch for a breakout. That one I think needs a little bit of time. Let me just check out on some of the others. UNH was another pullback, but at key resistance. This one, by the way, is like looking ready to break out. So if it can continue over 550, that thinks she rocks. And then I'm just going to check on one more. That was Costco. Costco is looking constructive. This is like, look at this weekly flag. I mean, this thing looks epic right now. Just as a side, this is like more breakout setups. These are really kind of interesting. I think if Costco holds this level, she should continue on. That's over 600 on this guy. It's really not a whole lot to go, and that's more on that retail sector. I think there was one other. You're probably going to be boring on this one. I did buy this stock today, Public Storage. I don't want to get too much into it. It's not super interesting, but that's one that I think you could probably buy this and comfortably sit on it for a very long time. Long story, investable for sure. Right back into a pretty solid support level. Can we look at FedEx also? Yeah, let's do that. Oh, so I think Profit Link is, I love the name, is spot on, right? So UPS is going to go into that transport sector ETF, and so we do want to have like some kind of confluence. I think this is going to tell us the same exact story. It ran into a little bit of overhead supply here, but if it locks in a higher low, that's what we want to see. The 200-day SMA, simple moving average on IYT, 235.75. So anywhere in here, remember, if you're trading moving averages, and I just caught this. So all these little things on my chart, that's moving averages. If you don't know, really like the best way to trade these are waiting for when they're really tight. And so these are getting really tight. And this tells me that we're about to hit a massive inflection point. And once those start to widen out, right, where let's say the 50-day starts to widen away from the 200-day, that's when the trade really starts to hit, right? And in the interim, it's kind of like a Tesla, where where Tesla is right now, these moving averages are getting tighter and tighter and tighter. That's when things go into consolidation. You want to wait until those moving averages start to separate, and once they do, that's when you get your larger trades. And this looks like it's in for a nice little pullback, but it will likely be a buying opportunity here on this guy for sure. So we want to look one more. FedEx, right in that same exact spot. FedEx, a much better chart than UPS. Let's give it that for sure. Here's FedEx. I got a lot of drawings on here. Let me see if I could take this stuff off for you, and I'll clean this up. FedEx a little bit tougher, but again, better chart overall. It's probably not the same kind of, it's not the same kind of discount. So that's the only reason why I was really not going FedEx. But as long as it holds this 50-day, I think this is the same kind of setup where if this 50-day continues, the 20-day will start to average out and the 200-day starts to catch up, then we'll have this like maybe continuation. And that does look upside for right now. So it looks like a buyable dip. If you do get that dip buy, it looks like 247.50 is going to be your major level. It's this red line, which you probably can't see on my screen. So let me make you one more right there, right? 250, give or take, on FedEx. And yeah, I could draw this pretty far across and say that, yeah, that's going to be a very key level on FDX, FedEx. But this is like kind of like that last holiday season press type of trade. So I do like it. The daily is just about to crossing over this from an oscillator perspective. You got earnings on the 19th of December. So just heads up on that one. By the way, we should take a look. So UPS doesn't have earnings till January. So it's a little bit more clear over there. So yeah, I like this UPS around 148. That's when we want to really start looking at it, see if it can defend and then reclaim. Absolutely going over 155 though. So I want to get it before 155, ideally. If you're over 155 though, it's just we reclaim. I will say this. So this is just today's session. So the volume today, most of it is at 150. It's going to be like the psychological level. And that's most of the defensive lines right around 148 that we're getting right here. That's what I want to see. So not yet, coming, but that's when I like to give them before they're actually going down. All right, let's just look at one. I keep getting these questions about Tesla. I don't know why. It's from a lot of people. But what I'll say on Tesla, so Tesla is in a very epic consolidation here. So giant flag on the weekly, but it's not really firing off right now. We do have a lot of kind of like areas. So this is just a fib retracement from this swing low to this swing high. This tags are 50% retracement. Even if I took this one right here, we tagged a 618 retrace, and kind of retested this bottom of consolidation. It's going back, but it could easily be printing a higher, lower high. And then again, it might come back all the way to like 2 something. So just be really careful. I don't have a catalyst on deck for Tesla, so that's why I'm like, it's a tough one to think that that's going to break out. One thing to note on the daily. So back to our moving averages. So remember how we were just talking, like, look, whenever we have those moving averages so clean, like together, just take these other lines off. So they're really tight. So 50-day, 200-day, and the 20-day. This is purple is a 200-week, and there's a 50-week. It's all getting right there. So they're tightening right now. So they're not. What we're not seeing here on Tesla is that moving average expansion. They're tightening right now. So as long as the width between these moving averages are like, longer. So like this is wide, right? So here's the width here. Right now they're getting tighter and tighter and tighter, obviously, right? It's not going to be until they start to broaden out. So once we get ultimately super tight where they're like almost overlying each other, and then we get this broadening out of the width of those moving averages, that's when the trade is really going to come. For right now, looks like a couple more days of consolidation, maybe in a week. Who knows? But it could be choppy, but it's just an inside week after. We're looking at a double inside week right now on Tesla, straight up. So like here's this last week, last week inside, the week before, this current week so far inside last week. So it's a double inside week. A move is coming, but you really want to wait for that to break, right? Really, really want to wait for that to break. And we're fighting with this 50-day SMA on that blue line right there. And I think we just hug it for a bit. Cybertruck catalyst. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one, right? So like that could be a sell the news event. What it's not a buy the rumor right now, unless it was a buy the rumor way over here. I think it's like, it's not going to be the Cybertruck. They have a whole nother car coming out. I forgot what it is. Maybe you guys remember. Model something. I think it's the like this. I want to say the station wagon, the hatchback. But there's another model coming altogether that I think would be like the real possible catalyst. But yeah, I think that's it for right now. There are some other ones, but nothing like super important. What I think is most important in general, really, like I like gold as a general, in general, regardless of what the market's doing right now, as long as equities are Project Highland. I don't know if that's legit or not. Shreyas he might be right on. If the equity market catches a bid, then maybe gold will flatten out, doesn't really break out. Everything's constructive, right? So just remember, the trend is up right now. This is the last week of November. It's a pretty low volume week. I wouldn't expect any major moves. So just keep that in mind when we're doing our trades. If you guys are out there, and if you're in my group, right? Like we have some very, very basic rules in terms of trading. Let me just pull this over. Basic rules in terms of trading your actual intraday day trades, right? So you mark your pre-market high, you mark your pre-market low every day, right? If you don't do that before you start trading, then you shouldn't be trading. Then you mark your opening range high and your opening range low. If you don't do that, you shouldn't be trading. That's your minimum requirements. If we're trending above both of these, like a pre-market high and an opening range high and a prior day high, then we're in a trend, right? But as long as we're in between like pre-market levels or even opening range levels, you guys got to know, like we're not in a trend right now. Will it come? Maybe, right? But between now and then, expect this chop, right? And maybe that's it, right? If you lose your, midpoint, right? Like maybe, but we're just we're just in this range, and honestly, it just goes sideways. So you can trade this range if you want, but when we look at things like swing trades and that kind of stuff, I need to see some trending things, right? Home Depot. That's right, not HE. Home Depot was one. I'm long Home Depot. This is the annual Home Depot trade. I do like this. I think we continue on to 320 in very short order. This is going to be a daily. If you go and look at this. So this is for example, so moving averages pretty tight. Now we're going to start expanding. That's the kind of stuff we want to see. 329 is the upside fair value gap on the daily for Home Depot. I'm in a January. Oh, did I send January? December. Let me see. December call that is up. I think this is continuation right now. This looks good to me, honestly. This is what we call like a power earnings gap up here, and now continuation. So I think this is all free and clear, well over your major moving averages. Looks like we're going to continue on. 320 and change is that next target here, next stop. So I like this one to the continuation for a continuation upside. If you get lucky, it's great. And what I was gonna say is like this is a kind of like annual trade. So every year, if you do the math, every year around December, late December, if you pick up Home Depot, so we'll go back to whatever this is, December of 2013. If you pick up Home Depot, like mid to late December here, by the next quarter, you're usually somewhat green. But let's go December, mid-December, and just kind of continues on like this. You have essentially an 80% probability picking up Home Depot mid-December over any significant period of time, and having a profit by Q1 of the following year, with the exception of COVID, which was right here. Very high probability trade, just from a seasonal perspective. And this is one where like, okay, so the Home Depot is like, in terms of like retail, their busy time is the summer. So that's kind of why it works, right? Grabbing it mid to late December, and then running it for probably like 3 to 6 months. You should almost like 80+% probability have a profit on this guy. So that's the annual trade for Home Depot. Good looking stock in general. I like it. We're moving now. All right, guys. That's it for me. I'm going to call it there. Appreciate you guys again. And remember, it's a holiday week, so we're pretty short volume. Don't expect anything major. Wednesday, Thursday going to be the biggest days of the week, so be around for that. And I will see you out on Spaces. Oh, and by the way, last but not least, I almost forgot. We do have a Black Friday sale. I almost look at this. That's weird to watch. So we're going to run this sale. This is my Twitter, right? We're going to run this sale to the end of the month. So you got 3 days. I'll send it again, but we're going to run this. Is 3 days enough? We'll give it to the end of the week, to the 1st. All right. So we're going to close this sale. This is like 3 months, basically free access to the group. This is where we do all our trainings and everything. If you're curious about who we have basically a ton of traders. Geez, look, this is our like stocks, Ace, Duke, Bishop. We got a ton of people. It's not just me. We have futures, equity. We got crypto. All of our education stuff goes in here. We have like full courses and stuff that we do this also every Thursday after market close. We do training. So, yeah, Friday's your last day. Take it or leave it. This is the cheapest you'll ever get this group. So, all right, guys. Love ya. And that's a wrap. I will see you Monday, assuming I don't have a baby by then. Adios.